Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into a text that's about 2,000 years old, but it's asking a question that I think we all still struggle with.
So, let's just start with this puzzle right here. It's something we all feel, right? But the crazy thing is, an ancient story might just hold the key to figuring it out.
Okay, so our story actually starts with a pretty surprising character. It's not some enlightened monk, but a really powerful nobleman. His name is Mahanama, and he comes to the Buddha with this problem that's just eating him up inside. And here's the thing, Mahanama gets it. He understands the Buddha's teachings about things like greed and anger. He knows what the problem is, but he just can't seem to fix it. He feels totally stuck, and his honesty, well, it sets the stage for something pretty profound. Okay, pay attention to this, because this question is really the heart of this whole thing. It's a feeling we have all had, right? That super frustrating feeling of, I know what I should do, so why can't I make myself do it? So, what's the Buddha's answer? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple, but it's also incredibly deep. He says it all boils down to something he calls the 5 desires. Now, the Buddha's super clear here. The problem isn't seeing a beautiful sunset or tasting delicious food. The senses themselves aren't bad. The problem, he says, is how we get hooked on the pleasant feelings they give us. You know, that little hit of pleasure you get from a new like on social media, or buying something new, or that first bite of pizza. We get attached to that feeling, and that's where the trouble starts. Okay, and this is where it gets really, really good. To make his point, the Buddha uses an example we can all understand, chasing after wealth. And he basically lays out how it's a game that's rigged from the very beginning. You just can't win. Think about it. The whole setup is a trap. If you work your butt off and you don't get rich, well, you suffer. But what if you do succeed? Then you suffer from the constant anxiety of losing it all. And when you eventually do lose it, which is pretty much inevitable, you suffer all over again. It's a no-win scenario. But it doesn't stop there. This is what's so powerful. The Buddha shows Mahanama that this little internal trap, it doesn't just stay inside our own heads. It's like a virus. It gets out, and it poisons everything, from our families all the way up to, well, the whole world. And it starts small, right in our own homes. That simple wanting, that attachment to our preferences, that's all it takes for a mother to argue with her son or a brother to argue with his sister. It's the root of so much conflict. So from the family, the problem just scales up. You take that exact same desire for more stuff, more control, and suddenly you have kings fighting over land and power. And it's such a brilliant illustration, isn't it? It shows the direct line from a personal, private feeling of, I want that, all the way to organized warfare between nations. It's literally the same engine of desire, just driving a much bigger, scarier vehicle. And I gotta say, the text gets really graphic at this point. But there's a reason for it. It's not just for shock value. The point is to draw this straight, undeniable line from that tiny, seemingly harmless desire for something pleasant, directly to the absolute worst things human beings do to each other. Yeah, the cycle just keeps going. The sutra even lists these horrifying state-sanctioned punishments, things like being boiled alive. It's making it crystal clear that the entire system of violence, from a simple theft to the state's reaction to it, is all being powered by that one single root: desire. Okay, so if chasing after what feels good leads to this absolute nightmare scenario, what's the alternative? What are we supposed to do? Just beat ourselves up for wanting things? Well, funnily enough, the Buddha runs into a group of guys who are doing exactly that. They're ascetics, and they believe the path to peace is through extreme self-punishment. And they actually challenge the Buddha. They say, come on, a rich and powerful king has got to be happier than you, a simple teacher with nothing. And this sets up this amazing comparison that really gets to the absolute core of his teaching. It's not about what you possess on the outside. It's about what you have mastery over on the inside. So here's the side-by-side. You've got the king, who is the master of a whole kingdom, but is a complete slave to his own mind, his worries, his desires. He has no inner control. Then you have the Buddha, who has literally nothing, but he's the master of his own mind. He has total inner freedom. So the Buddha asks these guys a question. He says, do you think that king, with all his wealth and power, could experience perfect, unbroken peace for even one single night?
And they have to admit, no, probably not. And then the Buddha says, well, I can do it for 7 days and 7 nights straight. I mean, what a statement. It's something that's totally impossible for the king, who is drowning in his possessions and his anxieties. Okay, so after all that, what's the big takeaway? What does this incredible dialogue mean for you and me today?
The answer is that there's a third option. It's not about just giving in to every desire, but it's also not about punishing yourself for having them. It's about understanding them. It's about seeing desire for what it actually is, this temporary thing that has, yeah, a little bit of sweetness, but also a huge potential to cause a ton of suffering down the line.
And that is the big shift in perspective. You go from being a slave that just automatically reacts to every impulse to being a kind of wise scientist, just observing it. And once you can see the whole process, the desire, the brief pleasure, the inevitable letdown, the hook just kind of loses its power over you. So that simple act, just noticing a desire when it pops up, without judging it and without immediately acting on it, well, according to this incredible ancient text, that's it. That's the first step on the path to real, genuine peace.